film commissioner
in the world.
But you know what is the most important, and I think in what Bill did today, I'm glad we could be a part of this. I think it's not well known how important and how close the race was between Wilmington and Charleston, South Carolina. When after Firestarter, Dino said, I'm going to build a studio. And if we look at really what set it off and set things on fire in filmmaking in North Carolina, it was the studio and Dino De Laurentiis.
Yes.
And it came real close to going to Charleston. And it was the folks in Raleigh and Bill Arnold and the governor at the time that tipped the scale. And we could be talking about how Charleston won the film industry and that Bill Arnold moved to South Carolina because he wanted to go with the film industry 20-odd years ago. But instead, we can look at this rich history of filmmaking in North Carolina that's just begun. It has just begun.
You're so right.
Well, how long have you, I gather from what you just said that you are now out of the film business.
I'm out of working at a particular part in the film business.
That's what I meant.
Independent. Yeah.
Every time you hear him talking, he's talking about some new project that he thinks we need to start or something that he's in the middle of.
So you're still in the film business.
I'm
but you're
enjoying and doing things that I've been wanting to do all my life.
That you want to do now.
That always seem to find a way back to being connected to the film business.
Yeah.
And it's just, you're able to take skills that you acquire in life and you're able to say, hey, listen, maybe I can do something with that and put it on film. And what I hope to do with what I have learned in all of my life experiences is combine those experiences and do some things that hopefully will give me more of a legacy to leave and more meaningful than even what I've done to date. And things in education and things that I can say that I'm proud to have really been part of. And I'm proud of everything I've done.
Well, sure.
But I can see so much more that I want to do.
Yeah.
And I was talking earlier about how Dino De Laurentiis, 88 years old, has just released Hannibal this last week. And I wanted to let Bill know, who just turned 70, that think about the man 18 years older than him that's just coming out with a film this week and got 2 more coming out. He's got to look forward to that, maybe doing something 18 years from now. So he'll be around.
So true.
Well,
quite a bit going on and coming back, and it is a business of cycles, and it's that way everywhere. It's not just in North Carolina. I mean, even LA has cycles, New York, and the industry and business has changed quite a bit. And what we're doing is continuing developing our indigenous business in film as continuing to attract majors to the state. But we're starting to see a really indigenous movement in North Carolina coming out of our School of Arts. What Frank's done very successfully at UNCW Wilmington and getting students involved and other young people having an interest. I liked looking at the students at the community college here this morning and seeing the interest in some of their eyes and knowing that if they really want to and they want to pursue it, they can do something.
Sure.
And be a part of the film industry. You don't have to work at a studio to be part of the film industry.
That's right.
And the film industry has really changed a great deal in the last few decades.
Amazing. It's
from,
amazing.
From the old studio system in California.
It's amazing. You've seen the stuff from the analog editing suites go out and the digital stuff come in and directors look at you and feeling uncomfortable. I remember some of the scouts, one of the directors, a well-known director, I won't say his name, but was very concerned that he was being told by the studio that he was going to have to use digital editing equipment. And he didn't want to use digital editing equipment. I mean, he edited several films, big films, with analog, with 6-plate and 8-plate Kims and moviolas, and he was very intimidated. And I remember his experience as he got into it and moved on, and how much he liked it and embraced the technology and went with it. And seeing the new technology, we had, George Lucas's camp come in and did quite a bit in the studio in the early years and bringing that technology to us. We were actually doing things in North Carolina that were well ahead of what was going on in the rest of the world, because we had George Lucas there.
Yeah.
So it was interesting. And I actually got the opportunity to travel out to Skywalker a few years later and spend a week at Lucas's ranch and see all of it there. So it was a real treat.
And all of this digital special effects that are being used now instead of the old way.
It's amazing how many number of films have been made in the past 2 or 3 years where the human characters are there, but only in voice, and everything else is computer generated.
Exactly.
And there's been a number of films, very successful, Ice Age, and there's so many. And the computer generated stuff is getting so much better.
Yeah.
And you look at the credits at the end of a film where you would see these roles that would go on, and years ago the CGI and computer stuff would be just a little block. Today it's like rolls of credits, just going on and on. Yeah. And so there's a lot of opportunities for I think a lot of young people that are coming up now that have these computer skills to get into those technologies that, you know, some of the older generation is not comfortable with. It's just going to be great opportunities for other. The film that I had, my last video that I did this past summer, you know, I call it one-man production because I shot it in China with one camera. I've distributed it worldwide on the internet, and I'm happier with that than anything I've ever done, you know. And any student can do that. Any teacher could do that. Everything's available now to the average person with consumer-type equipment to make a video and make it available to the world.
All right. And so tell us what's in the future for you as far as, do you have a project in mind right now?
I'm going to India this summer, and I'm going to continue. Was in Beijing, Shanghai, and Xi'an with Faces of China. I went with Worldview, a group out of UNC Chapel Hill, for 12 days in July, this past July. And while I was there, I shot that, and it's slowly building some recognition. I haven't gone public with it yet. I've kept it in the academic community. With Faces of India, which I want to shoot this summer, I'll be leaving June 26th. I'm probably going to step it up a little bit. I'm going to stay a little bit longer, shoot more footage, and I'm doing a Faces of the World series because there's so many misconceptions that exist from young people to older people about how people live and what conditions are like in different parts of the world. And we see different documentaries, and the things are available for, if you were looking for the information, you can get it, but we need to make it more readily available. So with Faces of the World and what I'm shooting and doing now is I want to make this readily available in all the schools in North Carolina and on the internet, available to anyone. And it's kind of an open source video education. It's not anything that I'm making any money or charging for. We have different universities now that are putting programs and open source type programs to get people interested in different subject matter. I want to do this with Faces of the World, get into looking and doing it, and know that they can do this also, and share this with others so we can break down some of these misconceptions. And how do other people live? How do students react? You know, I've got 1,000 kids in an elementary school in Beijing doing morning exercises that I shot while I was in Beijing. And when people see that, they're just amazed. Well, believe me, when I shot that, and I was with 1,000 uniformed kids exercising for 45 minutes before they go to class in uniform, I was wore out. They do that every morning. And when I show that to other kids, and I've had the opportunity to do that in other schools, and they see that, they're like, wow. And I'm saying, well, why don't we do that here? And then they're like, I get a reaction right away. So it opens some eyes. And there's KFCs, there's McDonald's, and all that exists too in different parts of the world. They ride skateboards, and I try to show a lot of that in Faces of China. But I'm in education now. That's my business now.
So how much has film and television changed the way we look at the world and how much we know about what's going on in the rest of the world?
It has changed it quite a bit. I mean, and I'm talking from my experience. I grew up in Kinston, North Carolina with CBS, NBC, and ABC.
Yeah, exactly.
And that aerial coming off that black and white television. And I remember the first color television, I was like, oh. And I remember going over to the theater across the street here and seeing, it wasn't the original Gone with the Wind, but it was when it was playing again. And you look back at those 3 channels and that black and white television, and look at what we've done, and look at the internet since 1990, what's happened in access to what people have access to. And I'm saying, let's get some content out there. It's being flooded with all types of content now. And that's good because it's kind of testing the bandwidth and what can happen and what can be done. But when I look at Google's top 100 videos, I get a little depressed because what's of substance there? But then I get encouraged because people are participating. They're viewing, they're watching, they're doing. So now let's put some content that's maybe a little bit more worthy than jumping over cars on a pogo stick, or, you know,
yes,
things like that.
I agree.
Let's show some kids in China speaking English in in a 3rd grade class that sound like they're in an American classroom. Let's show kids in India that are starving in a democracy of 1 billion people because of the conditions that they live in, and how can we help them be a part of that. Let's break down these misconceptions in the Muslim world about some of the current situation that we're in. I really think we can do a lot with the media and the power that we have by putting some different more content. I'm not going to say different. It's being done, but we need more. We need teachers to be involved. We need students to be involved. We need people like yourself in the media to be involved. Everybody needs to get involved in the process.
I agree.
But I want to say more about Bill. I know I got off the subject a little bit. And I remember, and I was 20-something when I started the studio, and, film business I fell into, it wasn't the direction I was looking for. I was an electrician. I was a service department manager for an electrical company, and Firestarter needed some power, so I was there to help get that to them. And I remember all the just strange people from around, with Dino and the Italians and the Spanish and the British, and it was just like a global enterprise that was going on in Wilmington, North Carolina. And I remember the first time Bill Arnold came to the studio, you probably don't remember, I was in the background, but it was so nice to hear a North Carolina accent with all that other activity going on, the baptism by fire. When Bill came, it was always North Carolina. Yeah, I am still in North Carolina, and it was good to have him over there. Over the years, know that he was there, and that it was a North Carolina industry that had been influenced and made the most of what was coming from all directions in the world. But I think Bill, in his service, is just the number of years that he was there, just really needs to be commended for
I agree.
his service. It is a public service, and he did quite a bit in that time he was there.
He did, and